Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to draw algebra tiles in Google Docs. Now of course the tools we use to draw algebra tiles are just the same as the tools we'd use to draw anything else, but I'll show you specifically the ones that I find useful for algebra tiles, and you can play with them if you want to draw other stuff. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll just show you an example of solving a math problem, and then I'll show you the tools I use to do it. So we'll solve the equation 2x plus 5 equals 1, and we'll do it with algebra tiles and written algebra. So I've made myself a little table. I went up here to insert and I chose table. So I'll put the algebra tiles on one side and the written algebra on the other side. So for the written algebra, I think I'll put that over here. I'm going to insert an equation. Now this is an important point. The equation editor that I'm using right now and the drawing tool that I'm going to use, as of the time that I'm making this video, they're only available on computers. So if you're doing this on mobile, it might be easier to draw the algebra tiles by hand, take a picture of it, and send it to your teacher if you have to submit it like that. All right. So now I copied the equation over here. So I'm going to go into our drawing tool and I'm going to draw the equation. So I'm going to go up here to insert, and I'll choose drawing, and we want a new drawing. So I know sometimes, I don't know if this happens to you, but it certainly happens to me. Sometimes I need to take a look at what's written underneath. Oh, I can't quite move it over enough. Oh, this I can. There it is right here. 2x plus 5 equals 1. You can slide it from one side to the other. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I'd like to draw a squiggly line for my equal sign. So over here we can see different kinds of lines. So I think the easiest for a squiggly line is just the one called scribble. I'll kind of draw it like that. So this is going to be my equal sign. I'll remind myself again, oh dear. Sometimes you want to click on this little arrow right here, because if you've got something else selected, it could you could have trouble like I just had, but clicking on the arrow sort of unselects things. All right, so I've got my equation back here, 2x plus 5 equals 1. So I'll insert, what I'm going to do is insert a little, it's in this little menu here, it's called a shape. I mean, I'm going to insert a rectangle, that's what I'm going to do. So I'll choose the one that looks like a rectangle, and I'll just draw a rectangle here. Now, so the default is that it's filled in with this kind of light blue. I don't really want that. I think maybe I'll make my positives green. Sure. And then I'll make, this is the outline here, I'll make that green as well. So there's a rectangle. Now you can just draw another one exactly the same, but personally I don't really want to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it. So I right-clicked here on this rectangle. You might need to do Command-click on some devices. I think that should do it on a Mac, I think. I don't have a Mac, but I think it does. So I'm going to copy the rectangle, and then I'll right-click again and paste it. You can also use Control-C to copy and Control-V to paste. One nice thing that the drawing tool does to help me keep sort of organized, I don't know if you notice them. See that little red line that shows up? That means that the centers of my two rectangles are lined up. So that'll make it kind of just nice and tidy to keep it lined up. I'm sure your teacher won't mind if your rectangles are slightly out of line, but and then you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to paste another one. So we're going to use Control-V this time to paste. But so I need to draw 2x plus 5. I'm going to start with this rectangle because if I do, it'll make my little unit tiles the same width as my rectangle, and that's nice. Right, so I'll copy and then paste, and then I'll paste again. I'm going to use, I like the keyboard shortcuts better. I'm going to use Control-V for paste. And one thing to point out is, especially this is useful if you have a lot, you can highlight several things at once. I'm going to hold down the Shift button while I click on this next square. And now I'm going to copy these together. And if I paste them now, then it'll give me 2 new ones. So especially if you've got a lot of little squares to draw, nobody wants to spend a long time drawing a million little squares. So I've got 2x plus 5 equals 1. Copy. I'm doing this with the keyboard shortcuts now. And there's paste. So those 2 sides of my equation are equal. Maybe I'll just, I don't know, it seems like it might seem tidier if this equal sign is like a bit big. I'm just going to play around with it until I think it looks kind of nice. Now it just seems very curved to me, so I'll just kind of squeeze it in. Okay. Bring this guy over here. Alright, so my 2 of my variables plus 5, that's equal to 1 altogether. So what I'm going to do is save and close that drawing. And because my cursor was in the box here when I went to insert drawing, my drawing shows up in the box. Yeah, 2x plus 5 equals 1. Now I'm going to click over into this box. I'm going to press Tab. It'll make me a new line in my table. I know I'm going to do some operations to both sides here. And I definitely could start off by drawing this whole thing again, but I don't really want to. So what I'm going to do is I clicked on it. And then I'm going to right-click and copy that picture. And put my cursor down in this box. And paste the picture. All right, so here I've got something to start with without needing to draw all of that again. All right, now of course this isn't exactly what I want, so I can click on Edit here, and that'll take me to just the right place. So what I'd like to do, I'm trying to isolate x. So instinctively I'd like to just subtract these 5 here, right? Because then I'd have just 2x alone, and that would be just what I want. But here's why I'm not going to subtract 5. If I tried to subtract 5 on this left-hand side, it would be great. But subtracting 5 over here, it's certainly possible, but I think it's kind of a hassle to do with algebra tiles. All right, so if you're comfortable with your 2-color counters and you're happy doing 1 subtract 5 with counters, go for it. That's no trouble at all. But I don't really like to do that, especially because there's an easier option for me. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Instead of taking away the 5, I'm going to add negative 5. I'm going to do that. Adding negative 5 and taking away 5 are essentially the same thing, although it does kind of look different with the picture. So what I'm going to do here, slide that equal sign over a bit. So I'm just using the arrow. I clicked on them, I'm using the arrow keys to move them around. And then I'm going to select all these. We'll try this and see if this works. So I'm holding down Shift while I select more. I'm going to copy. I'll use Control-C to copy. I'll click somewhere else, and I'll use Control-V to paste. Now, maybe what I'll just show these. I'll show them. No, I'll put them right here. Line them up nice. Now, oops, they're not quite lined up. I feel like that's good enough though. Now I'm going to change the color on these because these 5 are the ones that are selected. These 5 are the ones where the color is going to change. There. So those, I'm using red for my negative. I'll have to remember to make a key before I hand this in or before I finish it up. And now I'll copy that. So I use Control-C, click somewhere else, and Control-V to paste. I'll add them right over there as well. Right, so in this picture I'm showing that I'm adding negative 5 to both sides. And again, the reason we're adding negative 5 is because it was not obvious necessarily about how to take 5 away from this right side. It was easy how to take it away from the left side, which we wanted, but we got to do the same thing to both sides of the equation, otherwise they won't stay the same or they won't stay equal. So it was kind of tricky to subtract 5 from over here. So just before I click on close, I thought that equal sign looked like it'd just be a bit nicer if it was a bit more in the middle. All right, save and close. So now I'll write an equation that goes with that picture. I'm going to insert equation. Where is it here? Down here. So, actually what I should do, undo, I'll delete that. Easier, I copy this equation. So you can right click or you can do Control-C and paste down here. Now what I'm just going to do is I'm going to add in that we added negative 5 plus, so I'm just typing this with the keyboard, -5. And then we have to, and then over here, plus -5. I'm not sure why it's doing that little funny subscript thing. Okay. You know what another nice touch is? This is not necessary, but it's nice. You just center your equations. They look kind of good. And you know what I'm going to do also as a nice touch? I'm going to put them kind of in the middle of the box. Just because I think it looks better that way. It's not at all necessary. Okay, I press tab again to get a new grid here. And I'll click on this and I'll copy this one again. I'll paste it down here. And that time I just double clicked on it. And I got to it was the same as if I had chosen to edit. Alright, so I think it would be nice to show a drawing that shows what's going to happen to these. Of course, what's going to happen to these is these make 0 pairs with the negatives and the positives together. And this right here, we got 1 0 pair over here on this side. I don't actually want them to overlap, but that's actually pretty nice how that's touching there. Okay, so I think what I'll do, I could insert some sort of like circular shape. Circular shape, but I think I'd be easier maybe if I just kind of drew a circle by hand like this. So all that, and I'm just going to write that is equal to 0. Oh, that's an ugly 0. Do you know what so I want to get rid of that, so I'm going to click the arrow. And then if it wasn't highlighted, I could click on it, and I'll just press the backspace key or the delete key. Okay. Tiny draw. There. Now, if you wanted to have it be nicer than this, which is, I think, fine, but not super nice, you could insert a text box here and just type =0. But I think this is okay for my purposes now. I'm going to click back on the scribble. I'll show that this is also equal to 0. Save and close. Now I'm going to press tab again. I'm going to copy this one down here. I'll talk in a minute about why I don't think I necessarily need to write anything in this box. Then I'll double click on that. Alright, so now I'm just going to get rid of all the things that are equal to 0. So I can delete this. It's possible at this point you'd think it's easier, and you may well be right. I'm just clicking on each one and pressing backspace. It might even be easier if I press Shift, click on them all, and then press backspace or delete. You might think it was easier to just start from scratch and draw your 2 X's again. You may well be right. Yeah. So we've got rid of all of our stuff that was equal to 0. And then just because I think it looked nicer, I'm going to highlight all those and move them up a little bit. There, save and close. Okay. So here, we definitely need an equation to show what we've got here with algebra. So I can go to insert equation, or if this menu is already up, I can just stick it in there. I've got 2x on the left, and it's equal to -4. And I think it would look nicer with the space there. Good. And I'll put that down in the box a bit. Alright, I also might have written this equation up here, but because of the way that I wanted to sort of emphasize what was going on with the 0 pairs, with the algebra, this line plus this line, that's enough. You don't really need to show any extra step. But I thought it maybe was helpful to show it with the algebra tiles, so we could see like what was happening here. I just wanted to emphasize that this was equal to 0. And I didn't want to do it in the first step because here I wanted this picture here to emphasize that we were adding the -5 to both sides. All right. So here, I'll go ahead and copy this one. And paste. So I think it's gone down. Yeah, gone down here. Right, and I'll double click on it or click on edit to go back into the drawing tool. All right, so now what I need to show, I've got two x's, and when we're solving an equation, we're finding the value of one of the variables. So I need to show that I'm dividing this in, like I'm going to split it into two groups. Sometimes, yes, it is possible. This is an interesting thing to know, but it shows up all sorts of times. Oh, I'm going to undo. Another, I don't know, this is an undo button, and see how if I hover over it, it shows the keyboard shortcut, which is Control-Z or Command-Z. That Command-Z to undo stuff is super useful in all sorts of different programs. Okay, I'm going to highlight both of these. Can I pull them down just a little bit because I want this circle up here. This also shows up in all sorts of different programs or apps. This will help me rotate my picture. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. So that if you ever need to turn a picture, click on it and see if you get this little handle up here. All right, now I'd like to separate them. Kind of far away. And then I'm going to separate these little unit tiles. I want to clearly show that I've split everything into two different groups. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is definitely a little nicety. It's certainly not necessary. But I really want to emphasize that I'm splitting things into groups. So I'm going to put this line in. So I went up to here, and I just clicked on the line. But this is kind of a nice touch. So right now my line is still highlighted. If it wasn't, I could click on the arrow and click on the line. But over here, I'm going to make this a dotted line. Maybe this one? And then there. So it really is just like subtly separating my two groups. Right? I think that sort of shows that we're dividing nicely. If I was doing this by hand, I would probably circle one of the groups. But you saw how I'm not that good at circling things. I could try with this circle in here. But I'm not sure. I'm not that confident. Let's try putting an oval. Oh, that's not bad. Oh, so I'll have to make it so it's got no fill. So if you might think you should switch the fill to white, but you actually don't want to do that because that makes it solid white. What you want to do, so here's the fill, it's the like bucket of paint that we're dumping. You want to switch it to transparent. There, and then I'll check that this is black. Oh dear, I didn't mean to make the fill black. Yeah, that's black. Sometimes they're like a dark gray or something. There, I think that kind of shows the dividing nicely. So save and close. And over here, I'm going to insert an equation. So I'm going to show that it's 2x divided by 2. So I could use this division sign right here, but I would rather write it as a fraction because I think it looks nicer. So I'm going to insert a fraction over here. Sorry about that. So I'll type 2x in the numerator, and then I'll use the arrow key, which will put me down, divided by 2, and I'll use the arrow key to take me out of the fraction, equals, I'm going to insert another fraction. So we got -4 in the numerator, and then the arrow over 2. All right, now the problem, as you can see, is that in the equation editor, if you use a fraction, the numbers are really small. So when I have many fractions in an expression, I like to just change the font a little bit. All right, we're getting close to the end here. Yeah, I think it's worth copying this one again. Pasting it here. So I know sometimes people, including me, think, well, that's what a hassle to draw the tiles on a computer. But if you make good use of your copying and pasting, I think in the long run it can be quicker than drawing them by hand. Okay, so I'm going to delete, what I'll do is I'll just delete this, I guess I'll delete the bottom section. Delete those, and I don't need that circle anymore. I mean, oval. And then I can make that equal sign a bit smaller, I think. There. So I make a new equation here. What we have is x is equal to -2. Now, if your teacher hasn't asked you to write a check, you should still go up and do one, at least mentally. So what we want to know is if we replaced x with -2, because that was what we had for an answer here, -2, is 2 times x plus 5 equals 1. So we'll think here is 2 times -2, that's -4, plus 5. -4 plus 5 is 1. Yes. All right, now the one thing that we are missing is a key. I think maybe the best thing to do is go to insert another drawing. So insert drawing, new. And I'm going to use a combination of text boxes and the little box. So I'll put my text box, I don't know, there-ish to start. So I'm going to write key. And then I'm imagining right now, I'll put a green block there. So I'll just positive. I'll put a red block there, negative. Oops, I shouldn't have closed that because there was something else I meant to do. I'm gonna put in the little boxes. So rectangle. Fill it with green and outline it with green. And then I'll copy and paste another one of those here and change that color. All right, I think that makes sense. This is a nice touch. You definitely also don't need to do this, but we can make a little border on this little box. You can make it a really fat border like that, which is, I think, probably doesn't look the best, even though it's kind of fun. Just a nice little tidy border like that. Oh, that's bigger than I wanted. So let's make that just a lot smaller there. All right. So I hope that was helpful. I hope it shows you a few little things about how to draw pictures and also how to draw the algebra tiles without feeling like you spent 8 hours drawing little rectangles. All right, thanks and good luck.